Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I'm still working on Easter cards. This time I'm using two different collections from Paper Rose. I have Hey Bunny and also Eggs-quisite Days. These are both fun collections with non-traditional Easter colors, and you could use most of the papers in each of the collections for other card occasions. For my first few cards, I'll be using the Eggs-quisite Days collection. I will have links provided in the description box if you are interested in the papers or any of the other products I use in this video. For card design number 1, I have some black and white polka dot paper for the background. I used the Banner 2 die set for this smaller piece, this gray paper with the small little white X's all over it. I used some liquid adhesive around that outside edge of the banner die cut. Since it has that faux stitching, I just want to make sure it's not going to warp later on. Layer all of these on some black cardstock, and I did cut out a piece out of the center, and you'll see that later. I'm going to add a stitched circle die cut. I used some white shimmer paper for that. Before I adhere it to the card, I'll add a scrap piece of cardstock to the right-hand side where it goes off of the banner, just to keep everything nice and level. Adhere that using some liquid adhesive. And some people might notice I'm using art glitter glue this time versus the Barely Art glue, and it's only because I need to refill my Barely Art glue, and I just haven't done that yet. For the image on my card, I'm using the basket and also the decorative egg dies from Paper Rose. Now, I don't have the die to go behind those decorative eggs, so instead I use that leftover cardstock piece where I cut out the blue egg, flipped it over and traced it out on another colored cardstock. Then I used my scissors to cut along that traced edge, and now I can put it behind this decorative egg piece. It's not exactly the same size, but this works if you don't have the coordinating dies to go with that egg size. Now I want to put all of these eggs into the basket, but there isn't an opening. There is a little indentation when you cut it out with the die cut machine, but it doesn't cut all the way through. So I'm just taking an X-Acto knife and cutting all the way through. Now I'll be able to tuck the eggs inside. I'll add a small amount of glue so I can adhere this egg on the left. I'll do the same thing for the egg on the right. And then for this purple polka dot egg, it'll go in the center. I'll put some liquid adhesive on the edge of the other two eggs. And then just to make sure it's all going to stay together, I added some more liquid adhesive on the back side. With all those cardstock layers, before I adhere it to the card, I want to make sure everything's at the same level. On the very lower edge of the basket, I'm adding some thin foam squares, and I also put one on the top of that center egg. On the other two eggs, I'll add some scrap pieces of cardstock. Now the basket handle isn't going to be at the same level, but it's not going to really stick up that much. So I can remove the release paper, add more liquid adhesive on the back side, and adhere it to the center of that circle die cut. I love the pop of color with that gray and black. Then I realized I forgot to put liquid adhesive on the back of the outside two eggs, so I needed to do that. For the sentiment on the card, I'll be adding the word Easter. This is a die set from Paper Rose. The set also includes the word bunny and kisses, and it has the word die and also the outline. So I'll adhere those two pieces together with some liquid adhesive. I'll be adhering it to the lower right-hand side of the basket, so part of the word is going to hang off of that basket. I'm going to use some foam dimension to put underneath those areas. I don't need to put very many pieces since it's really only the E and the R at the end of the word Easter that's hanging off. And then I'll add some liquid adhesive to the rest and adhere it to the basket. I'll also be adding the word blessings. Paper Rose sells a variety of sentiment cut-aparts. Perfect if you don't want to do any stamping. The word blessings comes from their So Extra White 1.0 sentiment pack. I did cut the right-hand side at an angle just for some extra interest. Before I adhere it to the card, I'll put a scrap piece of pattern paper on that right-hand side and then adhere it right underneath the word Easter. Using the same banner to die set, I used the smallest size die and cut this black banner. It's a longer piece, I just trimmed it down to about 1.5 inches. Then to finish off the card, I'll add some of the clear crystal shaker mix pieces. I'll put a couple of them in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner around the sentiment. I'm using an embellishment wand to help pick those up, just adding a drop of glue and adhering them in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make a total of 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 2. I'll be using a card sketch. This is from MFT, it's number 531. For this card, I decided to use some of the pretty gold colors that's included in the paper pack. And I also have this fun Easter egg pattern paper. I'm going to layer everything on some black cardstock. For this strip that goes down the center of the card, I use some solid, golden yellow cardstock. I cut it out using Paper Rose's stitched strip slimline dies. And I adhered it to the card using some double-sided tape. Go ahead and put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 inch of the white card base showing. And all of my cardstock layers on this card and most of my cards are an additional 1/8 inch to the measurements on the sketches. Before adhering the smaller rectangles to the card, I am adding some scrap cardstock to the outer edges where it goes over that strip down the middle, just to keep everything at the same level. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere both of the rectangles to the card. Decided to have the tone-on-tone, a little more muted design on the top rectangle and the busier pattern on the bottom. Once those are in place, I can start working on the image. I used the large Bunny Builder die set from Paper Rose for all of these pieces, and this set is absolutely adorable. So I have the ears. This is what I'm going to assemble first. I used some white shimmer paper for that white cardstock and some light gray paper for the center of the ears. I put a piece of double-sided tape on the back side of the ear so the gray will stay in place. Also add some liquid adhesive around the edge. I'll be adhering the little bunny head and ears in this upper rectangle box. So you're not going to have a bunny face since you just see the top of the head and then the ears. Now the ear on the right is going to be folded down. So it's really fun that there's a die for either the right or left ear if you want to have it folded. I trim down the top of that full ear since you're not going to need that upper portion, and then glued the 2 pieces together. Now I'll tuck it behind the head. Now I haven't attached that semicircle for the head yet. Since it is going over those other layers, I'll add some scrap pieces of cardstock just so it's all level. So I need 1 on each of the ends, and then I'll also put 1 in the center between the 2 ears. I'll use some liquid adhesive to attach it to the card. I just love this little bunny with those folded ears. It's so sweet. The die set also includes the feet and the little bunny tail, and I will be using that on a card later on. For the sentiment on the card, I use the Happy Easter. This is the chunky layer die set. I use some gold pearlescent cardstock for the words. I'll also add a little flower to the bunny's ear. I cut out 2 of the smallest flower pieces, layer them together with some liquid adhesive, and I'll adhere it to the bunny's ear on the left. And the little flowers are from Paper Rose's Alana Flower die set. This is such a fun flower set, and I will use that one again on another card. For some finishing touches, I'm adding some more of the clear crystal shaker mix. Put 2 of them in the lower right-hand corner and 1 in the center of the flower. So there is my finished card, and I was able to make 2 using this sketch. For that card on the left, I used that same egg paper for that upper rectangle, and I felt it was too busy. I think the card with the gray pattern paper worked out better. Now moving on to card design number 3. This is a sketch from MFT. It's number 429. This is a fun sketch to use up those last little pattern paper scraps, or if you just want to use several different pattern papers together on one card. For the background, I have some gold mirror cardstock, also some black cardstock, and then some white shimmer cardstock. Layered all of those together. I did cut out a piece from that gold mirror cardstock, which I will be using here shortly. I have an assortment of triangles. And if you have patterns that aren't direction specific, you don't really have to pay attention how you're cutting them out. But for this card, I used 3 pattern papers. I wanted a certain direction. So I did pay attention how I was cutting out all those pieces. I'm using some liquid adhesive to adhere all the triangles down. And the triangles are a die set from Paper Rose. Now the card sketch only indicates 5 triangles, but every time I use this sketch, I like to add 2 more triangles to the design, just 1 more small size. So that's where this black pattern paper with the little white lines comes in. So I guess all of the pattern papers I used were direction specific, since I wanted the lines to go up and down for this smaller triangle. Now this design makes it so easy to add a sentiment. There's that nice big gap on the left-hand side. I cut out the Happy Easter sentiment from that background gold paper. Put some liquid adhesive on the back, and this fits perfectly in this little opening on the left. I'll adhere the word happy first, and then the Easter tucks right underneath. I think just the very edge of the R goes onto that gray triangle. And it's always fun to add a little image to the right of the sentiment. So for this card, I'm using one of the silhouette bunnies. I cut it out from some black glitter cardstock. Popped it up with some thin foam squares and then attached it to the card. I'll bring in some more of the clear crystal shaker mix. I tend to use these all the time since they coordinate with any of the paper collections. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner. And there is my finished card. I did make 2 using this card sketch. Now moving on to card design number 4. This time I'm switching over to the Hey Bunny paper collection. The card sketch is from MFT. This is number 518. Now, even though both of the paper collections are labeled more for Easter cards, there's still plenty of pattern papers you could use for any card theme. So that's what I'm doing for this card. I have some gray and white polka dot paper for the background. For the diagonal strip that goes across the card, I used this white paper with the gray and black hearts. I used the lines on my craft mat to make sure I adhered that heart pattern paper straight. I have some black strips of cardstock, and I cut these out using Paper Rose's Sentiment Strip die set. Put some double-sided tape on the back and then attach them to the card. I just flipped over that panel to trim off the extra. Then I'll layer this on some black cardstock, put some ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto the card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I decided this card needed a pop of color, so why not pink, since pink is a beautiful color. I used some pink shimmer cardstock. Now the opposite side of this pink shimmer cardstock is this deeper pink color. So they actually look really nice together. Instead of the circle, I did decide to use a heart. And this stitched heart die cut is from Paper Rose. I'm adding some scrap pieces of cardstock to the upper area of the heart just to keep everything nice and level. Then I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and attach it to the card. Now I'm not following this sketch very closely. I'm using it more for inspiration. It's one thing that's really fun about card sketches. I cut out some more of the Alana Flower pieces from that darker pink cardstock side. This flower is so fun. It has all this little stitched detail on it. So for this flower, I'm layering 4 of the pieces together. Use some liquid adhesive to adhere those in place. And now I'm adding a little bit of dimension, just curving up each of the petals. I'll be attaching that flower to the left side of the heart. And I did assemble 2 more flowers. Decided to have one a little bit smaller. For this sentiment, I'll be adding the word hugs, and I cut this out from some black glitter cardstock. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and attach it onto the heart. So once the sentiment's in place, it'll be easier to adhere all of the flowers. I just want to make sure not to cover up the sentiment. Put some liquid adhesive on the back, adhere one of the flowers in the lower right hand corner and then the other 2 to the left side of the sentiment. I think the pink goes really nicely with the gray and black. So final finishing touch, adding some more of those clear crystals. I'll put 2 in the upper left hand corner, a few of them around the flowers, and also add one to the center of each of the flowers. And I did speed this portion up quite a bit since sometimes I'm indecisive where to place the bling. So there is my finished card. I did make 2. For the other card, I placed the flowers in different areas and it really looks off balance. So I'm happier with the card on the right. Now moving on to card design number 5. I'm using this fun bunny paper for the background. I cut an oval out of the center. I have a piece of that pearlescent pink cardstock. I'll attach it to the center of this black cardstock. Then using an oval die set, I cut out this frame. So I had 2 different sizes of oval dies to create this thin frame. Put some liquid adhesive around the edge and then I'll attach it to the opening on this bunny pattern paper. So the oval is just slightly larger than that opening. So you can still see some of it peeking around the back side of it, but you're not going to see that. Then I'll attach some foam dimensional tape on the very back side of this panel. And you might think I'm going to create a shaker card, but I'm not. I had thought about it. And I did speed this portion up quite a bit, just adding lots of foam tape to keep everything nice and level. Then I'll remove the release paper and attach this panel onto the black cardstock. So now you're going to see that pink shimmer cardstock through the oval opening. Before I start working on the image or sentiment, I'll put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now the image on the card, I'm using the other portion of the bunny builder die set. So I have the feet, I have the body, and then the tail. And I've already attached the pink pieces into the little paws on the bunny. I'll put some foam dimension on the back of the body, and just a little bit on the upper paws. I'll remove the release paper on that foam tape and also the double-sided tape. I'll add some liquid adhesive to the areas I didn't have any double-sided tape. And then I'll adhere it to the center of that oval. So it looks like the bunny's hopping away or maybe hopping into this oval opening. I added a thin foam square to the back of the bunny tail and attached it onto its body. For a sentiment, I'm just using the word bunny. This is from that fine script set. It has the word Easter, bunny, and also kisses. I cut it out from some black mirror cardstock, so it has a little extra shine. By not including the word Easter, I think this card could be used for any occasion. I did decide to add 2 pink hearts in the upper right-hand corner. For the smaller heart, I popped it up using some thin foam squares. Then to finish off the card, I'll add a few of the clear crystals. Put 2 of them next to the bunny on the left and 1 on the larger heart. I really like how this card turned out. That bunny image is so adorable. So there is my finished card, and I was able to make 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 6. I'll be using a card sketch from OWH. This is number 93. I have 3 different pattern papers. A little bunny with just the whiskers. It's really cute paper. I have some egg paper for the background and also some black and white polka dot paper. I'm going to layer all of these pieces on some black cardstock, and I will be following this sketch fairly closely. I'll change it up just a little bit. Layer this panel on the black cardstock, and if you are interested in any of the sketches I show in this video, I do share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. I do not design card sketches, but all of these are free for you to use. For that crooked rectangle that's behind the bunny pattern paper, I decided just to use some more black cardstock. I will be adding 1 pop of color, but mostly this card is the black, white, and gray. I'll add some scrap cardstock to the left-hand side of this piece before I adhere it to the card. I'm trying to make sure to get that bunny rectangle pattern paper nice and straight. For this sentiment, I'm adding it on a stitched circle die cut. Using the Happy Easter sentiment, I cut it out of some gold glitter cardstock and layered it on some black cardstock. So there's just a peek of that black cardstock showing. I think it adds a little more contrast. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the circle die cut. And I did add some small scrap pieces of cardstock underneath the right side of the circle just to keep everything nice and level. So I'm trying to make sure to get the words straight. Then to finish off the card, I'm using some bling I have on hand. I decided not to use the clear crystals this time. So I just have a few pieces of black bling, put 3 of them in the lower right-hand corner and 2 in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. Now moving on to card design number 7. I thought it would be fun to do a slimline card for my final card. I'm using Paper Rose's Card Creator 2 Circles die. So it cuts out those 3 circles, and it has the stitching around the circles and also the outside rectangle. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to my card base. And I used some white shimmer paper for that background piece. For the 3 circles, I used some of the gray polka dot paper, just adding some liquid adhesive and inlaying them inside those 3 openings. Instead of keeping the card gray, white, and black, I decided to add a pop of purple this time. I have some purple glitter cardstock. I used Paper Rose's Stitched Strip Slimline dies for that piece. put some double-sided tape on the back and adhered it to the lower portion of the card, flipped over that panel to trim off the extra. Then using the little silhouette bunnies, I think this is the small bunny die set, I cut these out from some purple mirror cardstock. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and attaching one bunny inside of each of the circles. And I made sure the outside bunnies were looking in toward that center bunny. I think it just looks better with the bunnies looking in versus looking toward the outside edge of the card. For the sentiment, I decided to use the rest of that fine script set that has the word Easter, bunny, and kisses. So this time I'm using the sentiment Bunny Kisses. This set does have the outline for the words, but I decided just to use the words this time. It has that really nice, delicate look. It does help to have tweezers to hold these delicate dies. So you can add the liquid adhesive to the back and then adhere it to your card. I like to use reverse tweezers. And I did use my embellishment one to pick up that tiny little dot for the eye. I'm adding two banners to the left-hand side of the card. I have one in black and the other in the same purple glitter cardstock. Just adhering them using some liquid adhesive. These are from a Paper Rose banner die. They're longer, I just trimmed them down. Then to finish off the card, I'll add some more of the clear crystals. Put two of them in the lower right-hand corner, two to the left of the sentiment, and one more to the left of the bunny on the right. With the sentiment Bunny Kisses, you could use this as an Easter card or a love card. I think it would even work for a birthday card for someone who really likes bunnies. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. Even though the Hey Bunny paper collection is all black, white, and gray, it's easy to add that pop of color. Now here's just a recap of the 14 cards I made using Paper Rose's Eggs-quisite Days collection and also their Hey Bunny paper collection. Both collections are so much fun. I love all the patterns that are included that you could use for any card occasions. And I still have lots left from each of the collections. I will have links provided in the description box if you are interested in the paper collections or any of the products I used in this video. Paper Rose is located in Australia. They do ship internationally. You can also purchase their products in the US. And I do have links for their Australian store and also where you can purchase their products in the US. Paper Rose really sells a wide variety of paper styles. They have some beautiful florals, there's some cutesy stuff, a little more grunge or industrial, lots of lovely backgrounds. Definitely something for everyone. I love using a variety of different styles for my cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.